Alright guys, I'm gonna make a video of how to make meatballs and stuff, but unfortunately I'm also watching Bridgerton right now because I was a fan of Dairy Goals and Nicola Coughlan is in this series, so I'm gonna watch a little bit more of this and then we'll get started on some meatballs, okay? Okay, a couple things you're gonna need. You're gonna need a pound of ground beef, a pound of sweet Italian sausage, or any type of sausage really, because we could put other seasoning with it. But this is the two meats you're gonna need. Let's say 1 tablespoon or close to 3 cloves of minced garlic, some basil. I'm using pink salt, but it doesn't have to be pink salt. You could use that, and also some freshly ground pepper. We're also going to use some crushed red pepper for part of the seasoning. For the cheese, we're going to use some grated parmesan. And then, of course, instead of using breadcrumbs, because we're going to make small meatballs, we're going to use ricotta as what kind of holds everything together, instead of using egg yolk or breadcrumbs. So we want to taste the meat and the flavor, not the breadcrumbs and the egg yolk. Okay, before we get started, one of the things I like to do is measure out all of my ingredients. So I like using a digital scale. I set it to grams. And I'm going to start with about 8 grams of salt. Come on, there we go. Okay, so next I'm going to do is put up some spice onto this. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put my earbuds in so that way maybe the sound will be a little bit better. So what I'm doing, because I remembered I got to probably pull back on this recipe because when I used to make it, it was at my last job, and I haven't made these meatballs in quite some time. So let me show you what I did. Normally what I would do, like if I use 10 grams of salt, I would probably use about 4 or half that amount of like pepper, but then I'm like, wait a second, I'm only working with 2 pounds of meat total. So I don't want to do that because then I'm just going to overpower. You're not going to taste the meat or the cheese. You're just going to taste all the spice. So I'm using 2 grams of black pepper and only 1 gram of red pepper. So I will keep it tapping like this until that number turns 3. Actually, you know what? I'm going to leave it like that. I think that's probably... Oh, I got it. All right. You know, what's funny is that I was thinking, as I was about to cut up some basil, I'm like, why am I cutting up basil? I don't remember this. Oh, it's because I didn't use basil. Actually, I used dry leaf oregano for this. And so this, I wanted to have, because it's already dried, it's not going to have the same flavor as like, fresh oregano. So I'm going to put a little bit more in here than I would normally do. Let's see here. You want at least 1 gram of oregano in this. Okay, next up, I'm going to show you how to mince garlic in case you didn't buy it minced. If you want to do things fresher, I would say always get, fresh vegetables. But when it comes to things like garlic, as long as it stays, you're not leaving it out on the counter of minced garlic and, leaving it, for like a day or two. I'm pretty sure as long as you refrigerate it, once you open it and keep the lid off it, it's going to maintain a lot of that flavor and stuff. Most minced garlic does. Rarely ever do any kitchens have their minced garlic go bad, right? So I'm going to show you 2 ways that we're going to do this. One of them is with one of these little puppies here. Here, I'll show you. 1 second. Okay, so you can't smell it because that technology doesn't exist yet, where I could transfer smells to the internet, and you better pray to God nobody ever actually invents that shit. But that is the minced garlic here. There's another way. Let's say you're like, hey, Dave, I don't have a mincer. How am I going to do that? Another way is, and I'll show you the before and after because I can't hold my phone and do this at the same time. You take the blade of your knife and you're going to smash this down here, and I'll show you. Just 1 second. See? So what I did is that I took the blade of the knife and making sure that my hand isn't on like the sharp end of it, and I smashed this down and then I dice it. So I did that. This is going to go in with our meat here in just a second. Let me show you what I'm going to do before I start getting the cheese ready. 1 moment here. This is something I kind of picked up for when I was managing a burger place, right? one of the things what I learned, and I also learned this from working in a Texas barbecue, is that sometimes you got to let the meat breathe. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to open up the meat, put it in here. I'm not going to mix it up yet. I'm just going to let it oxygenate. So let's take a look and see how it looks right here. And I'm going to open that up, toss it in the bowl. One moment. Okay, so what I also did now, because I'm trying to save some space in the kitchen here, I have already put the garlic on the meat, but I haven't mixed it yet. But I want to take a picture of something real quick to show you guys. Oops. Okay, so this one right here, that's the beef, that's our pork. This is how the meat looks right now. We're going to show you how, let's see if the color changes in the next 5-10 minutes. All right, let's try not to have so many jokes about this, guys. But so I just cut up all this cheese, which is a lot of cheese to cut. So I know, come on, no, that's not what I'm talking about, guys. So the reason why I cut them up in these small little pieces, because when you put them in the magic bullet, which is my little container right here, this, you don't want to cut up in big chunks, because what happens is you get like 70% of the cheese cut, and the rest of it is just this one big chunk that refused to go away. So I know I said magic bullet and also cut the cheese, so I'm sure there's a bunch of people that are snickering right now, but I'm just going to tell you, if you do have a magic bullet, ladies, that's not the one I'm talking about. You do not want to put cheese on that thing. All right, hold on for 1 second. Let me turn the camera around. Okay, I think we're about ready to start mixing these things. I've got the meat. I've got all of my ingredients and stuff in here. Like I put the cheese and also all the seasonings and everything, just because I'm trying to save space and not leave a bunch of shit all over the counter. I have a heaping cup of ricotta cheese. I've let the meat oxygenate for at least 5-6 minutes. Let's take a look at it. Okay, so this hasn't changed too much. Normally there's times when you get like a big chub of meat and you unpack it and it has kind of a pinkish look to it. Thing is, the more you let the beef oxygenate, it starts to get redder. So I'm gonna go follow the first rule that my mom ever taught me about cooking, which is lava sus manos, cochino. So I gotta wash my hands first, and then I am going to start mixing. Okay, so as we can kind of see here as I'm mixing this, remember the two colors of the different meats of the pork and the beef, and now it's starting to become one. That's what you're looking for here. Now I'm still going to keep mixing this, but I'm going to do this until I pretty much try to absorb as much as all the parmesan that I possibly can. But so you're going to want to spend at least 2 or 3 minutes just continuously mixing this, so that way you don't get like one clump of salt or one clump of red or black pepper or oregano and stuff. You just want to keep doing that. So I'm going to do this for about another minute or two, and then I'm going to add the ricotta, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a moment. Okay, so this is halfway done. I've put the ricotta cheese in there, and see how we can still see. Psst, get out. You're not going to pee in here again. Get out, little puppy. So if you noticed, it's not one whole item yet. It's the ricotta and then the meat mixture. I want to get these things so it's a light pink. So I'm going to keep mixing this, and I'm going to show you what it looks like at the end. Okay, so let's take a look and see what the temps out of these meatballs. I need them to be over 145, and yes, they are, so these things are cooked through. All right, so take a look. Notice, like, remember when I said, guys, that there was going to be a lot of fat and everything that came out of there? That's probably mostly because of the cheese, as well as, I mean, yeah, there's beef, but, I mean, the beef I got was 80-20. And then, of course, the sausage, pork has a lot of fat to it. So, now these meatballs that I made, I wish you guys could taste them, because I know they're going to taste great, because they've got the great parmesan, the saltiness of the parmesan, counterbacked with a little bit of seasoning, you know what I mean? You could do this however you like as far as the seasoning goes. Here, let me turn this around. the whole idea about making a recipe like this is to make something that's really interesting that most people don't have the time or the inclination to make. But when you do it, you can create something really special. Now, if you notice, the craziest or the most expensive thing that I used in this recipe maybe was like Parmesan cheese. That isn't necessarily what you need. You could use the fake shit as well, but just put a little bit more, like a few more grams of salt in. You could do something like that, or maybe a little bit more ricotta or whatever. But the whole thing is that as long as you could take something that's simple and put your heart and soul into it and put some care into it, just think about the people that are going to be eating it, and you want them to be like, holy shit, this is good. Remember, anything that's created has an emotional resonance to it, whether it's your writing, music, singing, or even cooking. All right, this is what I would tell a lot of my new guys anytime that I was training anybody in a kitchen, or at least in my last job. Think of a recipe that your mom made for you or your grandma made for you, okay? So let's say it was, whether it's a pie, or in my mom's case, it was like tomato red rice, okay? If you gave me the recipe, that's something that your mom made you or your grandma made you or anybody in your family, and I followed it exactly, it'll taste good, but it's not going to taste the same. That's my theory, and that's what I think, is that it won't taste the same. Why? Because your mom and your grandma, they could love you way more than I do. I probably don't at all, because of whatever, I'm emotionally damaged and I'm a Gen Xer, who knows. But the whole thing is that you too, if you work at something, keep it simple. You know, whether it's pizza, pizza crust, or anything that you bake or anything that you make, and you can make something really remarkable. And I can tell you this, guys, and this is a bit my act, I would say that if you know how to cook, you really don't need to have a personality in order to get laid. You really don't. All right. And if you're really good in the sack, you don't have to work out either. But that was just my that was my experience through this life. You might have a different thing here, but it's important to know how to cook. Why? Because it's a way of communicating, just like anything that's creative, right? And that's important for all of us. So go out, whether you use this recipe or you're going to use something else, just try to find something simple. Don't get too fancy. Don't get all culinary grad on me. You know what I mean? Because culinary grads are, how do I put this? They are more educated than I am. I am more educated in working in restaurants on how to handle pressure. And that's really what's needed in most restaurants. It's not necessarily that you got somebody back there that can make a shitload of sauces and is a great baker. I just need you to be able to not to fucking cry or have to come in drunk in order to deal with more than 5 tickets at a time. All right? So, just like I said, when you're starting out, keep it simple and try to avoid that whole, look what I can do, you know? And I think you guys are going to enjoy it quite a bit. So, happy cooking, and yeah, all right, y'all have a good night. Bye.